good shot first time. I think we'll be seeing come through to live action, and as it gets cheaper, coming down into rigs that will be coming from whichever manufacturers make them. Good. So as everyone's looking at their watches, we know these guys I've always tried to keep them on time, but it's like herding cats. So I'm going to ask Ken just to maybe be the one to represent the panel talking about really the distribution side and the theaters and et cetera. And then we'll do the quick Pluribus demonstration, then we'll open it up for Q&A. So
Sure. And as I said before, there's these two trends, at least in the advertising space, that are really critical. The dropping of production costs and the rising of distribution opportunities. From a cinema standpoint, there's a coupling of 3D deployment happening with Big D. So digital cinema, what we call Big D, is right now in rollout. All the major circuits are replacing 35 millimeter traditional film systems with new high definition or 2K and 4K cinema digital systems. And with that is the opportunity of incrementally adding onto it some additional gear that makes those screens 3D capable. So there's two major sort of rollouts happening in theater right now. The projections have been very loose because, quite honestly, there's been a lot of various parties from the manufacturers to the studios to the circuits involved in this sort of big sort of ecosystem of launching all this new technology. But 3 to 5 years, we expect to see the bulk and the majority of the big digital systems roll out in cinema and approach the majority of the 35 to 38,000 screens we have in the U.S. And 3D is moving with that. I think today I saw a number that we're at about 3,200 screens that are enabled with 3D. Within our network, we have about 1,400. That number is going to grow, and it's going to grow substantially. I think Avatar has had a pretty big effect on the appetite of the theaters in noticing that there's an incremental premium.
So the power of good 3D.
Power of good 3D, indeed, and that extra $3 for the ticket. But I think that's influenced how many of the digital systems will end up also being installed with 3D. And we expect to see a pretty aggressive growth rate. I mean, I've heard numbers anywhere between 7,000 and 15,000 screens in the U.S. So we'll see if the circuits or the theaters decide that 1 out of every 2 digital screen is worthy of 3D content, that we're going to see that higher end. But I would expect to see a minimum of 5,000 to 7,000.
We should just mention as well, CES surprised us all with the amount of 3D TV equipment that came out there. We were thinking several years down the line. It looks like it's here now.
Yeah, it's going to be at end of 2010. I think you'll see some of the early ones for holiday this year. I think I was at the LG booth, and the 3D quality on the LG displays was just unbelievable. Just
it's here now. 6 or 7 manufacturers now in the
yeah, everybody's coming out with them now.
I know
and I
think
Europe
this summer. Yep. Yeah. And Blu-ray is close to. It's actually coincident with all the television releases. So there's actually a format where you can watch 3D.
Right. So that's actually an important piece, particularly with 3D distribution to the home. So it's coming from the theaters. We're seeing the TVs coming into the home, Blu-ray availability to the home, and then ultimately the ability to stream it so that you can get that content and get that experience on whatever device or platform you want.
One quick thing I want to add. The killer app, as far as I'm concerned, and something we've been pushing internally at Sony since the beginning of the discussions of 3D a few years ago, is home video and still photography. Is really, as far as we're concerned, the killer app. I know at DreamWorks they use a lot of stereo cameras to get people used to the idea of shooting stereo, but it's a pretty darn cool thing when you have a stereo video camera of your own and you get to experiment, and that stuff is coming this year as well. So
everyone look up Fuji W1 if you want to see a consumer 3D camera right now.
And save your pennies for Christmas.
So real quick before we do questions, what I'm going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about just where we think 3D is going to go. What you've seen here with movies and in cinemas is traditionally 3D in kind of what we refer to as kind of the normal aspect ratios of what you would normally shoot your films in. The research that we've been doing at HP is to look at our ability to do 3D or even HD content in very strange kind of aspect ratios. And in fact, one project that we're working on is a 20-foot high, 80-foot wide quad 3D video capture playback. From the standpoint of really giving you that kind of immersive experiment. So Project Pluribus is a project that's running in HP Labs, which is HP's long-range research and development group. And this is actually the very first time we've ever taken Pluribus out of the lab and shown it publicly. Believe me, you wouldn't believe the heartache of getting it here. So a bunch of the researchers are in the room. I'll call them out when we get to the end here. But Nelson, why don't we go ahead and let's let's wow them a little bit to show them what they can see in a large screen. For those of you on the you're out of luck because you just can't see the. Or you can stand in. You guys can walk in the audience if you want.
It's the dawn of a new day in sports entertainment.
And we're just going to run a couple different series of clips so that you can see it. Giving you the feeling that you're on the court. We're going to go ahead and run on to some other clips. The way the technology works is we have multiple projectors behind. So we actually can stack them and tile them, and it's all software driven. It's not really a hardware trick. It's actually a software trick that allows us to get ultra high resolution, ultra high quality 3D. And we can map the surface to any shape or size, including curved and wrapped surfaces. You could display it literally on anything. Now you can even see the snowflakes even bigger now. Not that we need to see snowflakes here in Park City. And keep in mind that all these were done, some of the clips we'll show you here will be done in native 3D, and some of them are doing in taking 2D to convert to 3D. So. Now you want to go hop on the train, right? Why don't we go ahead and go to the next? We got one? That's it? Okay. So what you've seen here, what we're going to do at the end after the Q&A session is we're going to run the loops continuously so that you can walk up close, you can actually see the 3D, and then be able to answer any questions. So at this time, I know we're kind of a little bit later than I planned, but we're going to go ahead and take questions. So if you've got, whoa, man, lots of questions. I'll take the guy in the orange shirt. He's waving his. Oh, 3D without glasses is the question. Well, actually, and a bunch of you who've been to HP Labs have seen some of our work in audio stereoscopic no glasses. The problem today is a lot of it's using tricks like lenticular lenses. So, the photograph that you get, you kind of twist it, and it looks 3D and it looks 2D type of an image. But there's a bunch of R&D groups that are working on trying to create 3D no glasses. But from a standpoint of at least HP's research and development, we're probably 3-4 years away before we can deliver something. It's a whole bunch of electronics and optics that you got to all cram down into something that is reasonable.
One quick thing I want to mention is at Sony we did a ton of user research, consumer research on the idea of 3D in the home, and the issue of glasses came up. And it's interesting to note that the only people that ever complain about wearing glasses in the home are either people who haven't seen what 3D looks like now, or grown-ups who haven't seen 3D now. It tends to be part of the experience now for most people, especially in gaming and going to the theater. So it's really not much of an issue right now.
Right, and we actually view 3D as being actually not just in the entertainment industry, but also in day-to-day lives. So for instance, we have a project going on with one of the big medical research facilities of putting 3D into the surgical suites, so that your surgeon can see your MRI in 3D while they're actually performing the surgery. Glasses become a problem because you don't want to have that surgeon taking the glasses on and off. So that's actually some of the work that we're also doing, because there's certain applications where you have to get around the glasses. But I'll tell you, today, once someone experiences the glasses, whether it be polarized or actives, once they've seen the 3D experience, the stigma of glasses quickly goes away.